We'll finish section 2.3 on lines with perpendicular lines. So just like with parallel, the two types of questions we'll run into are, here's the equation for two lines, are they perpendicular? And the other type of question will be, write the equation for a line that's perpendicular to this given line and passes through this point. So recall from geometry, when two lines intersect at what? They're said to be perpendicular. What's required? They intersect at either 90 degrees or a right angle, right? Either way to say that, if they intersect at 90 degrees or at a right angle, they are perpendicular. Two, here we're excluding non-vertical again. We're excluding vertical again, sorry. We're excluding vertical again because we're going to talk about slope, and we don't talk about slope of vertical lines. It's undefined. So two non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only if the product multiplication of their slopes is -1. In other words, let's write it here. If the slope of line 1 times the slope of line 2 equals -1. That's what they mean by the product of their slopes is -1. Now, what do we say for vertical lines? Any vertical line is perpendicular to any horizontal line, and vice versa, right? So vertical lines are always perpendicular to horizontal lines. Okay, so the first type of example, here's the equation for two different lines. Are they perpendicular? What we need to find is their slopes, and if we multiply their slopes and get -1, then we know they're perpendicular. That's all we need to check. It doesn't have anything to do with y-intercepts. So the other thing about this is we can say that we multiply and get -1, or we can talk about the two slopes being negative reciprocals. Let's check through that a minute. So for example, if the slope for line 1 is 2 and the slope is 2, what would I need to multiply by to get -1? What would line 2 have to be? Well, to get the 1, I'd need to multiply by 1/2, but I need to make it -1, so it would have to be -1/2. These are just examples, just to be sure we get this. And if the slope of line 1 is -3/4, then what would the slope of line 2 have to be? Well, I'd need to flip that to 4/3 and change the sign so that when I multiply, I get a negative. So it would need to be 4/3, okay? So that's why another name for these numbers are negative reciprocals. They're reciprocals and also the sign changes. Okay, so we have x plus 3y equals -15. I need to find the slope. Solve for y. 3y equals -x minus 15. Divide everything by 3. 3y over 3, -x over 3, -15 over 3. I'm showing the step this time because I have some space, and I want to show you, I don't want to write it like this. I need the slope. What is the coefficient of x here? It's -1/3. And then 15 over 3, of course, would be 5. So slope for line 1 is -1/3. Now let's try for line 2. -3x plus y equals -1. Add 3x to both sides. Y equals 3x minus 1. The slope of line 2 is 3. Are they negative reciprocals? Yes, they are. Or, just to double check, you can do m1 times m2. In other words, -1/3 times 3, and you do get -1. That's all we have to do to check. Yes, perpendicular lines. These are perpendicular lines. So that was the first type of question that we saw for parallel. Now we see it for perpendicular. And the second type of question we saw for parallel was this one, right? Where they said, find the equation for a line that was parallel. Well, what we have is find the equation for a line that is perpendicular, right? Our last example. Find the equation of the line perpendicular to -2x plus 5y equals 3 that passes through this point. First, since the slopes matter, that's how we're going to determine this, we need to know the slope of the first line. So we'll solve for y. Add 2x, and we get 5y equals 2x plus 3, and divide everything by 5. And we get y equals 2/5 x plus 3/5. So m1 is 2/5. So m2 is what? Flip it and change the sign. It was positive, now it's negative. The slope of the perpendicular line is -5/2. Now use this information that m equals -5/2, and I'm passing through the point 2, -3. They told me that up here. And I'll use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 to write the equation of the line perpendicular to this one passing through that point. Y minus -3 equals -5/2 x minus 2. Y plus 3 equals -5/2 x, and -5 times -5/2 times -2 would be positive, what, 10 over 2 or 5? And then subtract 3, and I get y equals -5/2 x plus 2, right? So the slopes are negative reciprocals. So here it is in slope-intercept form. They also want general form. So for general form, I need my x and y on the same side, so I'll add 5/2 x to both sides. 5/2 x plus y equals 2. But a, b, and c are not all integers, so I have to clear the equation of fractions by multiplying both sides of the equal sign by the least common denominator. There's only one denominator, it's 2, so if I multiply 2 times 5/2 x plus y and 2 times 2, I will get 5x plus 2y equals 4. There's the same line, but in general form.